So let me ask you this. You guys work with the South Pole cattle and the St. Croix sheep. Okay. If you guys were to go back to Michigan and Massachusetts and say you wanted to start your own farm, what animal would you start with?
That's
Yeah.
You want to answer?
Yeah. I would. It's a tricky situation because there's elements to where South Pole, like Greg's cattle or like if you would like use his bulls, I mean, you're going to be so much farther ahead than most bulls that you could ever buy on the market. But that being said, too, Michigan is a totally different climate than here in Missouri, and so it's going to take quite a jump for those animals to get adapted to that environment, and some of them just may never get adapted.
Okay, then let's word it like this: sheep or cattle? Which way would you go?
It depends on again. It depends.
There's a lot of variables.
It's like if you, I think one of the biggest things. I mean, market is one big thing. Like if you have the capacity to sell your sheep, if you're planning on doing mostly for meat, or if you're planning on doing it mostly for seed stock, you need to make sure that you have an ability to sell sheep. The big advantage in those two environments with sheep is the fact that you can do it on really small acreages.
Yeah.
So
and with limited capital to start up.
Exactly, because like Greg's stuff is top of the market, and it's still only like a couple $100 per animal, as opposed to a couple $1,000 per animal. So and like the rate at which they reproduce is also a lot faster, so your cash flow is a lot better when you start out. But I mean, sheep are really intriguing and like I would think for somebody who's a complete beginner and doesn't know what they're doing, I think sheep are a great option, just because there's a lot of risk that gets mitigated with sheep as far as financially, like physical risk to yourself, because if you get knocked over by a 150-pound ewe, you're probably going to be okay. But if you get knocked over by a 1,000-pound cow, like you might not be okay. So it's like, and I mean, obviously, like cattle. It's not like cattle are dangerous, but it's something. It's just something to think about if you have no experience. But I would say, I don't know. I mean, for Massachusetts, I think probably sheep would be a good idea, just because of the limited land availability. And to be clear, like I'm not actually planning on going back home. I know it's just an example, but it's just not like specifically where I'm from. There's just, it wouldn't make sense. Like land prices are way too high. There's way too many people. It'd be a tough go.
Well, I moved from LA in California out to East Texas.
Just exactly. Yeah. So, but like for Isaac, it's like a super relevant question, because that's something that he's been thinking a lot about.
I've been kind of directed home a little bit as in my goals. I think, me personally, I would probably try to start with the cattle. If I had a nest egg saved up enough that I could make the jump. If I'm kind of stressed on capital, or I don't have a huge funds to draw from starting out, I think sheep are like a really good way to start up. For like you talked about like the financial and the risk factor, but it's also, they're a lot hardier than cattle, and they can take a lot more abuse, or like poor land or poor management. Like they can survive on some pretty poor forage, whereas a cow, she kind of needs good nutrition and keep her body and her calf going, and so I would say if someone was starting out, like you said, just complete newbie, sheep for sure.
Sheep are such a good idea. Yeah.